Well, I happened to be in the weight room. About 5 years ago, I was in Manhattan, and I'm over doing handstand push-ups. Now, not many guys do that at any age, but there was a guy quite a bit older than me, than I am, and he was doing those handstand push-ups. And then I went over to do some pull-ups, and he was doing pull-ups. So I finally settled up to him and said, "How old are you?" He said, "I'm 84 years old." I said, "What are you taking?" He said, "I'm taking a nitric oxide booster." And I said, "Well, I don't know what that is, but I'm dang sure going to find out." So I began my journey, if you will, I guess. I found out that the nitroglycerin was probably one of the first substances was used to dilate the vascular system. They didn't know how it worked, they just knew it worked. And it was actually by accident, because the miners were using nitroglycerin to blast, and they would get these incredible vascular headaches. Well, the doctors figured out that somehow it dilated the vascular system, so they would give angina patients nitroglycerin under the tongue. Still do. It's a very common practice. They didn't know exactly what the physiology was, but they knew that it was working. Well, then the endothelium was discovered, which is a little thin one-cell wall lining of the vascular system. And they realized that somehow that it allowed that endothelium and the vessel around it to dilate, which relieved the pressure. And they called it the endothelium-derived relaxing factor, EDRF. That was the term. Well, then in 1989, Dr. Louis Ignarro, he discovered the chemical composition, and it was called nitric oxide. And at the time, it was hailed as the miracle molecule. And he continued to do research, because they found that at age 25, that level peaks. By the time you're 70, your nitric oxide production is at zero. Again, it's produced by the body. And when he won the Nobel Prize in Medicine in '98, he really figured on how you could actually boost it in the system naturally without forcing it, because an anabolic steroid boosts nitric oxide production. The problem is it does it with some serious side effects. And if the body can do that naturally without the side effects, then the long-term use of that would be phenomenal. So a guy named Dr. Siva Arunasalam at the High Desert Heart Institute started using it with 33 very severely cardiovascular impaired patients. These guys were almost all on oxygen, almost waiting for heart transplant or death, whichever came sooner. Their idea of a workout was walking up, going to the mailbox, and within 6 months, their lives changed. They were back traveling again. They were back going through airports, and it was a life-changing experience. So fast forward to me. At the time, I was 222 pounds. Both my parents died of cardiovascular disease. My father at 78, my mother at 80. And I'm facing high triglycerides of 338, cholesterol of 278, blood pressure. I'd never had high blood pressure, was trending at 140/90. And my physician said, you probably need to get on a statin and a beta blocker. Well, the good news is I manage money for a number of physicians. So I asked those physicians, I said, what do you think of statins and beta blockers? And of course they said, well, what's the alternative? But the side effects aren't very nice, but you probably, need to be taking those. So I began taking a nitric oxide booster. I thought, I'm going to try this. Start taking my blood pressure every day. And within 90 days, my triglycerides went from 338 to 139. Cholesterol went from 278 to 172. Blood pressure went from 140/90 to 124/72. And of course, my internist said, "What are you taking?" Just like me with the 84-year-old guy. And I said, "Taking a nitric oxide booster." And she said, "Well, I don't know what that is, but it's working."